Hi guys, hi, hello, welcome. So today we'll be doing a beachy style sweater crochet. I guess I should say we'll be crocheting a beachy style sweater. I already started on it to kind of get an idea because I didn't really know what kind of stitch I wanted to use or what kind of pattern I wanted to use. So I already started, I did the back and I mostly did one of the sleeves, but we will jump in together and I will show you how I did the back, aka by doing the front. That might also be the front, I haven't quite decided yet. Depends on which one turns out looking better. And then I'll show you how I did the sleeve and we'll also finish the sleeve. So to start, my yarn I will be using. So this is just like the cheap yarn from my personal Walmart, but you can get like this cheap yarn from just about anywhere. I know they have like different branding depending on where you go, but it's 100% cotton, just like I don't think that this is like the non-worsted or however you say it yarn, where it's still kind of like you can see all the different threads used to make a single strand. So this skein was like 9 something at my Walmart. It's 674 yards. I also bought 2 of the like 120 yard skeins, which I used for the other parts of the sweater so far, and those were like $2. So altogether I invested about $15 into this sweater. And I want to say, so I still have like a few rows of a sleeve left. This is like what little I have left of the second skein of 120, but I did get through the whole back plus like majority of the sleeve, because the sleeve's only going to be about elbow length, in 240 yards. So I really don't think this is too much by any means. I think $15 to make a whole sweater is actually a really good deal, but I'm ranting now, so let's get going. I also will be using let's see, it will probably not adjust, I'm not very good at that, a 5mm hook, as well as you will need a crochet needle to stitch everything together at the end. But yes, that is what you need. That is what we're making. Here's a little teaser of what we're making. So let's just go ahead and get started. So first thing we need to do is our slip knot and then our starting chain, which for my size personally will be 60. So I'm going to do a starting chain of 60. Now I am going to be doing a light form of blocking. I know there's like a couple of ways to block. I will just be using a steamer to block this once I'm done with it. So this will like loosen up once I'm done, which I think is very important for this type of cotton yarn. Also don't want to make our starting chain too tight. But I'm going to do a starting chain of 60 like I said, and then we'll hop back in for the next row. Our starting chain is done. Next, I need some of my yarn loosened up here. Next, I'm going to do a single crochet. I'm going to skip the first stitch, go into the second, and just do a single crochet all the way down, because I'm not doing a official hem or like cuffs of my pieces, so I do want to create kind of like a very specific hem, which will be my single crochet here. So I'm going to go all the way down with a single crochet and then I'll hop back in. I finished my first row, which was all single crochet, and now I'm going to do a double crochet to kind of create my pattern. So I did my first one because that was fighting me a little bit, and now I'm going to do a second one, a third one, and a fourth one. Now this is just the general pattern I did, but this is kind of going to be a guide for you where you can adjust it however you want. You could do the same pattern I did, you can make it your own, you can do whatever you want. That's kind of what's super nice about crochet. But I did a single stitch up there, or I think that would be the proper term for that. I skip one and then I go into the next one to do my double crochet here, and my yarn is tangled on something. So let me move all that. And then I do 3 more double crochets. Here. Then I do the last one. So each time I have 4 double crochets, then I do a single on the top, or I guess what would be like a starting crochet stitch. Sorry, it's fighting me a little bit here. And then skip, then go into the next one. So I still kind of have like that stitch has like a placeholder, so to speak, but I don't have a full stitch to kind of make an open look to it. And then I'm gonna do 4, then open, then 4, then open, all the way down. Showing my previous one so you can see the pattern kind of went out, then back in, then out, then back in, kind of making like a zigzag with the little squares. That's what we'll be doing here. So I finished my second row, which I do have this little knob at the end. I would typically go into there, but it would kind of affect my pattern, so to speak. So I'm gonna ignore it and flip the yarn here, go into my first one, create a double crochet. If I'm on the screen, that would be great. Then I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3. Then I'm going to single crochet, skip a loop. I know you couldn't really see that, so single crochet, skip a loop, go into the next one to create a square there, and then go 4 total. So we have 2, 3, I'll hold it up a little closer so you can see, 4, single crochet, skip that loop, go into the next one, and then double crochet all the way down, creating a little bit of a pattern. I got to the end of my row 3, and even though I'm doing a pattern of 4, I do have this extra spot where another square would go, but just to like save myself from having an odd spot, I am just gonna put a double crochet into there, and then I'm gonna flip my yarn, do a double crochet, and then let's see, we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that works out perfectly because we are going to come back on this one. So we'll do 3 stitches. If the yarn doesn't want to fight me, and then do a single stitch, then go into this one. Basically every time I will be going into the one next to kind of our like square loop or extra loop, I guess. Like I said, I've said this in a lot of my videos, I am self-taught in crochet, so there's a lot of terms I don't quite know, which probably doesn't make me the best person to come watch. But I am a visual person, so I like learn by visually watching. So sometimes I just don't know certain terminologies, but yes, we basically always go into this like single stitch with our first stitch after our square there. And we're gonna go all the way down to kind of start creating a pattern. For the ends, even when there's times I should technically be adding a square on the ends, I'm not going to, just because it does complicate the pattern a little bit. It makes you think a little bit more than you should. So there will be a few times like now where I'll be doing more than 4 double crochets in a row. So for this one, we are going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 to get our pattern here. Just so we don't have to add like a square here. Like I said, it complicates the pattern as a whole. But we're going to continue back after that by doing 4 and then another square all the way down. For the next row, we are going to go into our first stitch here, do our double crochet. My yarn is tangled on my foot here. Going to do our double crochet, and we're going to keep our pattern here. So as you can see, it goes out, in, and then we're going to go out again. So we're going to do 4 stitches for our pattern. It's our 4th one. And then we're gonna skip and go into the next one. It doesn't want to fight me here. Now I'm going to keep going with, now that I can kind of show you what the pattern looks like, where you go out, in, all the way down. I'm going to continue with that, and I'm going to basically keep going. Let me count how many rows I specifically went. Including my single crochet row, which was row 1, I will be doing 17 because I like my sweater slightly cropped. So I will be doing 17 rows of just going back and forth, as you can see in this pattern, where it's kind of like a faux chevron type pattern with the squares all the way down, and I'll check back in when we start to like go in for the sleeves. I did my 17 rows, which is how much I needed, including the single crochet row at the very bottom. That's how much I needed for my personal sweater. Obviously, everybody's a little different with preferences and sizes, so you may need more. That's how many I personally did. I do, like you can see on my previous one, I like to put a little stitch marker into my first row, which will be this one, of going in for the sleeves. Just a personal preference, because I don't have a traditional measurement. I don't use any like actual measurements when it comes to these, other than for my sleeves, because I just kind of go either based off sweaters I already have in my personal closet, or just sizing it on myself in general. And this helps me personally figure out how much I need from the shoulder to the armpit. So that's that. That's my personal thing. So far, it's worked for me. I'm sure there will be a day when I really make an oops. But I'm just going to skip the first one, go into the second one, go into the third one, to bring it in together a little bit here, and it will slowly start to create the almost angled sides. Now, this does make your pattern, like, it makes you think a little bit more for your pattern, but because I went with a simple pattern of just the 4 and then the single crochet, then 4, then a single stitch, I guess I should call it. It's not too hard to pick up, but this is definitely a part you will have to think a little bit more on. I'm not gonna show doing each row, if you couldn't tell by the lack of showing at the beginning of this video. This is more of like a guide of how to do this sweater if you know how to crochet. So like I just showed you, I'm going to go a single stitch into 2, gradually going up every time, and then once I get to the opposite end, I will just go straight into the end. I'm not gonna reduce on this side because I'll reduce once I go up, and it kind of makes a nice even sides for me personally, so that's how I do it. But yeah, I'll be doing that until I get to the top here. So that's our next step. That's what we'll do. Just keep following your pattern and following, and what I mean by pattern is the squares. Following that while increasing, or I guess I should say decreasing, for your sleeves as much as you personally need to, and then we'll check back in. I finished both the front and back panel. I finished one of the sleeves. I am going to attach my front and back panel first for a couple of reasons. One, I get a little nervous with like tops because I worry that I might not have given myself enough space for this to fit like comfortably at like the neckline and stuff. So I might have to add like a couple of rows up here at the top, but I'm not sure. I still do have to obviously make a second sleeve. I'm not making a one sleeve sweater. You could if you'd like, but I personally am not. So I will still have to make that, which I'll do after. But first, like I said, I'm gonna weave my front and back together up to this point, which I will. What I like to do is I take this, since I've already got it, and I just attach it to the other one on both sides. I'll do the same over here, and that gives you like a good point. And then all you gotta do is take some yarn. If you were a little bit more forward thinking than I was, you would have made this tail longer than I did, so you could attach it all through here. But I will get some yarn and string that all together. I'm gonna try it on. I'll touch base with you guys after, and then we'll talk about the sleeves after all this. I'm gonna take my extra yarn here. Figured I'd show you guys how I personally attach them. And I literally do a slip knot on the piece that's attached. And that's all I do, because once I weave these in, for me so far it stayed. Like obviously if you pull it one way, it's going to, but when you flip, when I weave these in, I'm basically gonna kind of like knot it into itself, and it won't like be bulky or anything like that. I don't know, it just is one of those things that I feel like I've seen done a million different ways, and that's just what I have found works for me. All right, so get the yarn in here. Just very quickly, what I do to weave my two pieces together is I just basically go back and forth, and I try and get as close to like each thing as possible, but I'm not too particular. Like if I miss a couple loops here and there, it's not a huge deal. But I do want to make sure I get, like I said, as close to every loop as possible, just to have a nice tight side seam. But with a big open like pattern like this, it's not as big of a deal. I weaved my two sides together. Now this is going to be like my inside seam. Anyways, I tried it on, and I will need some extra length up here because it will be a little like too short, which I kind of assumed with just like this sweater in general, that I was going to be adding like shoulders, I guess, to it. So I'm gonna get my yarn, and basically I'm just gonna make triangles almost, or I guess they're not triangles. What are they called, where they have the flat side, three flat sides and then an angled side? It's been a long time since I've done geometry on the front, and then the back I'm actually gonna just build upward at this like size and kind of go upward and keep it the similar shape. This I'm gonna kind of create a little bit of a neckline for, because with this cotton yarn I think it would be a little too on my neck as is. I'm not gonna do a like huge one because I only needed about an inch on either side basically. So yeah, I'm gonna get some stitch markers, and I'm gonna probably put my stitch markers here and here so I know how far in I'm going, and then I will probably just do 2 rows up, keeping this like staying at this size. I'm not going to shrink here. I'm going to go at an angle, like I said. I added my stitch markers and I counted to make sure that they were even. Then I'm going to take my yarn, go into the first one. I'm going to skip this one because I do have an uneven amount, and I'm just going to do a single crochet once I find which one is my tail into here just to attach it, and then I'm going to continue with my pattern as if I hadn't stopped. I find a lot of times, just like preference wise, I prefer to do necklines this way than while I'm doing it. I know for a fact that that's not like everyone's preference, to like break up your yarn so much and your project so much, but for me personally it just works out a lot better for me, I guess. But here we go. I'm going to go into the next one. I finished my first row of that because here is kind of like signifying where I'm going to stop, and I'm going to turn my work around, untangle my yarn, and I'm going to skip the first one, go into the second one, and go backwards here. It's going to be a little harder to keep up with the pattern through this part, but you know what? That's just a part of crocheting.
Oh, dang,
skip that.
hit the paper. No.
I'm going to flip my crochet again, and I'm just going to personally do one more, which I'm just filming this to say it. I do realize now I really couldn't have skipped this one, and I miscounted because just how I was holding my yarn, and I have this huge gap, so I'm gonna have to start over. But that's like a part of just making stuff up as you go, is you make mistakes. So I am gonna have to recount both sides and redo them evenly. And yeah, I'm gonna start over, but I am gonna end up with 3 rows on this side and the other side. I fixed it, and here's what it looks like. That is 3 rows. I went gradually up to kind of create more of a rounded neckline. If you want more of a squared off neckline, you can just have the straight and narrow. I'm going to do the same on this side now, and then I will, like I said, do the back, and we'll attach those like so once that is done, and then we'll get to the sleeve. I completed the back, which I only did 2 extra rows here. Then I attached on both sides. The one sleeve I have done is not attached yet, but I do have it just like clipped on here so I know where it will go. And now I have to do the last sleeve, which is going to almost be my last step here. I am going to block the sweater. My mind forgot what that was once I'm done, but the general steps to making this sweater will be done after the last sleeve. So with this, I'm going to do a starting chain of 50 for myself. I'm trying to make like a looser sleeve, and my sleeves are like about elbow length. I think once I block the sweater with my steamer, it will be a little bit longer than that, which is what I want. So we're gonna do a starting chain of 50. There is my starting chain. And next I'm going to do a single crochet. Like I said, for the body, I'm going to do a single crochet because that kind of creates a little bit of a difference between like my hem and the top of the sweater, and I'm going to go all the way across. Now that I've finished my row of single crochet, I will go back in to my pattern, and I'm going to do the same exact thing I did with the body. Going to do 4 double crochets and then do a single stitch, then 4 double crochets, then a single stitch. And I'm going to repeat that. It's giving me trouble here. I'm going to repeat that pattern for 16 rows. So I'll have a total of 17 rows, including the single crochet row, but it'll be 16 rows of the double crochet with the single stitch, then double crochet. And like I said, that's just my personal sizing and length I want. Obviously everyone is built and has different preferences. So yeah, I'm going to do that, and then we'll jump back in once I attach the sleeves, look at how it looks so far, and block it. So here is the sweater before blocking. The sleeves are a little shorter than I was like going for, and it is shorter than I was really going for, but once I block it, it is obviously going to loosen up and be longer, a little bit looser, which is what I prefer, as well as the sleeve should be probably about to here, which is closer to what I want. I also have not weaved my ends in yet, but I always take too long to do that anyways. But here is the finished product so far, and now let's block it, and I'm going to use a steamer to do that. So I steamed it twice, and this is what it looks like now. The difference is not big, but I do like it. The sleeves are like a smidge longer. This is actually, I would say, a little bit longer, as well as just like a little bit looser, but the difference is not huge. So if you are also tuning in to see the difference between steaming and not steaming, it's not big. So if you're someone who just finished a sweater and you just want to like switch up the sizing just a tiny bit, I would say go steaming. I'm probably going to eventually block this like full on to fully loosen up, because I can definitely tell there's a lot more room to like loosen the crochet. But for now, this is what it looks like. That was my goal. This is kind of like a beachy, summery sweater. It's not too heavy because it is cotton. It's short sleeve. This will be great like tucked into like jeans or worn over a dress, or like with like a beachy like printed pant would be very cute. But yeah, so this is my beachy sweater. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye!